set? I'll have to do that for fun.
Done?
Anytime y'all are ready, go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to Israeli News Live. This is Yana Benun, and I have in my studio tonight with us Dr. Day, Dr. Lorraine Day. She has two websites, drday.com, goodnewsaboutgod.com. And you all know Dr. Day. We had her with us several times before when we talked about Noahide laws, and we talked about health as well. Welcome, Dr. Day.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and today I invited her to chat about hydroxychloroquine. As you know, Dr. Day, hydroxychloroquine right now is a big fad. Everybody's jumping out. We've suddenly solved problem for coronavirus. And if you are against hydroxychloroquine, you must be for Bill Gates' vaccine, right?
That's what they say, right?
Right. So you, as a professional, as a medical doctor, as an ex-neurosurgeon, I would like your opinion on the hydroxychloroquine.
Well, I want to read first I'm reading from the Centers for Disease Control website. I'm going to read you what they say are the symptoms of coronavirus. They are fever or chills, cough, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headache, new loss of taste or smell, sore throat, vomiting or nausea, and diarrhea. Now I'm going to tell you that every one of those symptoms is an adverse effect of hydroxychloroquine. In other words, if you take hydroxychloroquine, you're going to have all those symptoms plus the possibility of having 200 more symptoms from the adverse effects of hydroxychloroquine. So if you don't want to have the coronavirus, you're going to be worse off if you take hydroxychloroquine. Now, the only difference is they say here in the CDC, you may lose your taste or smell with coronavirus. But here you can die with hydroxychloroquine, death. If you go on the website, go on the internet and look up hydroxychloroquine side effects, you will see a number of side effects they tell you if you're a consumer. But then there's a whole other group of side effects they tell you if you're a medical practitioner. They don't tell you that if you're a consumer. But one place they say the absence of pulse or blood pressure. Well, that's being dead. They don't even call it death. They just say the absence of a pulse and blood pressure. That means you can die. So it's absolutely crazy because all of the same symptoms that you have for the coronavirus, you can get plus many, many more, such as dizziness, difficulty walking, problems with blurred vision and problems with the retina of your eye, unusual behavior. When your eyes, it's called Nystagmus, when your eyes go back and forth like this and you can't control them. I mean, it's craziness, numbness or tingling. But here it is right here. No pulse or blood pressure. That's you're dead. And then they have nightmares, shakiness and unsteady walk, sensation of spinning, cardiac arrhythmias. That means your heart rate goes all kaflooey and you can die from that. And also optic atrophy. That means your optic nerve, which goes to your eye, is destroyed. So you're blind.
That's a permanent damage, right? Permanent damage.
Permanent damage from this drug. Abdominal pain, skin rash, psoriasis, mental disorientation, suicidal thoughts and behavior. I mean, this is a terrible drug, just like they all are. And people are so used to taking drugs. They don't understand that God calls all drugs sorceries and witchcraft. Mm-hmm. It's in Revelation 18:23. The Bible says about end times, the whole world will be deceived by their sorceries. And that word sorceries in the Greek is pharmakia, or pharmacy, or drug medications. Now, I have a picture of the very first drugstore, the very first pharmacy in America. I was back in Massachusetts in 2004. I was doing an infomercial, and I was staying in a hotel in Massachusetts, and I was staying in a town right next to Salem where they had all the witch trials and all. And so I went down to the hotel little store, and there was a visitor's guide for Salem, Massachusetts, and I bought it, and I read about it, and in there they had a picture of the very first pharmacy ever in America, and it was directly attached to a witch house. The first pharmacy in America was directly attached to a witch house. And God calls all drug medications sorceries and witchcraft. And he says that because in Deuteronomy 7:11-15, God gives us a 100% guarantee that if we live, think, act, eat, and handle stress his way, we will never be sick. He says, if you follow my laws, that includes all of his natural health laws, which I have in all of my materials, which are part of getting well from virtually every disease. If you follow my laws, my commandments, all 10 of them, and my decrees, I will keep you free from every disease. Well, what people always want to do is whether they go to a naturopath who will they'll tell you to take all these supplements. If you go to a homeopath, they'll tell you to take all their little potions that they put together. And if you go to an orthodox doctor, they will tell you to take the drugs that they prescribe for you. But you don't get well by taking something. You don't get well by taking something. You get well by changing the factors that have caused your disease in the first place. That's the only way to get well, because we give ourselves disease. I had cancer. I gave myself cancer. I didn't do it on purpose. I did it ignorantly. First of all, doctors don't know anything about health and very little about disease. I learned that when I was a medical student. That was 55 years ago. I was a medical student, and I realized at that time that doctors don't cure any disease. They just give you drugs, and the drugs treat the symptoms. They don't change the underlying cause of the disease. They treat symptoms, such as if you have high blood pressure, the doctor will say, well, here's a high blood pressure medication, but you have to be on this for the rest of your life. Why? Because it doesn't cure your disease. And nobody develops high blood pressure because they have a deficiency of high blood pressure medication. You see, I had breast cancer. I didn't develop breast cancer because I had too many breasts. So I knew that cutting one or both of them off was not going to cure me. And I certainly didn't develop breast cancer because I had a deficiency of chemotherapy or a deficiency of radiation, and both of those actually cause cancer. So all of my colleagues said, you're not going to have chemo and radiation and a mastectomy? And I said, we all know chemo and radiation cause cancer. I already have cancer. Why would I take a medication that would give me the disease I already have? It makes no sense. But they say, but you need it. You need it. I didn't need it. I got well by totally natural methods, by following God's natural health plan, because God says drugs are of the devil. Because you see, God says, when you have a disease, he said, I designed the body to heal itself. If you have a cut, the cut will heal. Cut will heal unless you keep picking it open or put dirt in it or mess it up in some way. God designed the body to heal. If you have a cold, you'll get well. You might be sick for a few days, but you will get well. If you have the flu, you might be sick for a few days, but you will get well. Those are called self-limiting diseases. And virtually all childhood diseases, chickenpox, measles, mumps, they're all self-limiting diseases, which means you will get well automatically. You don't need a vaccine. You don't need any drugs. You don't need anything. The body is designed to heal itself. That's why God gave you an immune system. Well, now everybody's worried about germs now. Oh, they have to have hand sanitizers to wipe off every single surface. I want to ask a question of all of you that are watching. Why do people take probiotics? Probiotics are germs. Probiotics are germs. Well, they say, well, they're good bacteria. Well, how can some bacteria be good and some bacteria not be good? You see, we're covered with germs all over our arms, all over our face, in our nose, and our mouth. They don't bother us as long as our immune system is working well. Now, let me give you another illustration. If you see a dead animal in the road and a vulture is eating it, did the vulture attract the dead animal, or did the dead animal attract the vulture? Well, of course, the dead animal attracted the vulture. The vulture is there on the earth to clean up the rotting tissue. Otherwise, if we didn't have these scavengers, the earth would be covered by everything that ever died. So if you have a garbage strike in your city and you have a pile of garbage in your front yard waiting to be picked up, which won't be picked up very soon because of the strike, it will attract the rats and the mice and the flies and all the other insects to clean it up. I'm trying to make the point that God has given not only on the earth and in the sky with the vultures, but even in the ocean, there are scavengers that clean up the mess. In the ocean, it's such as clams and all of these other kinds of scavengers, lobsters and all that eat up dead and dying tissue and the waste material. So God has provided it for the oceans, for the land, and in the air. Well, He's also provided it for us as human beings. The vultures and the rats and mice that are to clean up the dead tissue that you can see, God has given us bacteria and viruses to clean up the mess in our body when we make ourselves sick by the way we've been eating, living, and handling stress. If you don't get enough sleep, and if you eat too much sugar, if you don't take care of yourself, you'll get sick. You might get a cold, you might get the flu, all right? Then the bacteria that are already on your skin and in your nose and in your mouth move in to clean up the mess that you have made. They are there to clean up the mess. When you get symptoms, it's when they throw the toxins as they're cleaning out your body that you made yourself sick. As they're cleaning out your body, they throw those toxins into the bloodstream to be eliminated. Those toxins then cause your symptoms. You get a runny nose, you feel sick, but the bacteria and viruses are actually doing you a service. They're cleaning out your body. But people don't want any symptoms, so then they go to the doctor and they get a drug to stop it. Mm-hmm. And that's how we build up more and more disease in our body and destroy our immune system. And of course, a third of your immune system is comprised of the bacteria in your colon. That's a third of your immune system. They are bacteria. You say, oh, well, those are good bacteria. The others are bad. No, they're all good bacteria. The reason that bacteria get so strong is because doctors have been trying to stop the clean out of your body by giving you antibiotics that kill these bacteria. But you see, God is greater than the doctor. So the bacteria keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger to combat all the antibiotics that doctors are giving you, which is not only causing problems with wiping out the good bacteria in your colon, but they also have many, many side effects, sort of like hydroxychloroquine, which is not necessarily an antibiotic, but the whole point is that every drug you take has numerous adverse side effects that destroy the immune system that God gave you. That's why everybody is so sick. Those drugs and the way people are eating, living, and handling stress, and all the vaccinations they're giving to people nowadays. When I was young, you'd have about 6 or 8 vaccinations before you went to school, which you didn't need. You see, Bill Gates thinks that he has to help God out because he believes that God didn't make the body right. He probably doesn't even believe in God at all. But he believes that God didn't make the body right because it doesn't know how to be well. So Bill Gates has to help God out by having all these vaccinations which contain mercury, a hazardous waste that causes bone cancer, aluminum, which encourages Alzheimer's, aborted fetal cells, what they call immortal cells, cells that don't die, that are in these vaccines, which are cell lines that have been going on forever in the laboratory. When a cell has that characteristic, it means it can cause cancer. Cells are meant to die, like red blood cells die in a few months and then you make new ones. But if cells don't die, that means they can cause cancer. Mm-hmm. So they're putting all of that in these vaccinations. Nobody needs a vaccination for anything. I will repeat that. No one needs a vaccination for anything. And you see, the reason God calls drugs, and vaccinations, by the way, are drugs, they're in that same category, is that God says, if you live, eat, and handle stress my way, you will not be sick. And I reversed my 4th stage cancer, which was declared terminal. I had no chemotherapy, I had no radiation, and I had no mastectomy. And if you go to my website at drday.com, you'll see I had a tumor the size of a softball on my chest. And I got totally well and cancer-free by following God's totally natural health plan. I had no drugs whatsoever and no mutilating surgery. If we do it God's way, you see, then Satan comes along and says, oh, you don't have to change anything in your life. You can keep living, handling stress all the wrong ways, and just take a pill. Take a pill. Okay. And that's why God calls them sorceries and witchcraft, because when we're sick, that is God calling us to him and saying, change the way you're living, eating, and handling stress, and you can be well. My cancer diagnosis was 27 years ago. I am totally well, cancer-free, have not been to a doctor in 27 years. I didn't go to doctors before that, too, because I know that doctors don't know anything. That's why I became a surgeon, because you see, I'm an orthopedic trauma surgeon. Trauma surgeon is the kind of surgeon that takes care of you when you're shot or stabbed or run over by a truck or you're fall out of a window or whatever like that. That's not a disease. That's not caused by the way you live, think, act, eat, and handle stress. That's trauma. So I can put you back together again and you can go live your life. But if you have a disease, see, God doesn't say, I will keep you free from all accidents. He said, I will keep you free from every disease, because diseases are caused by the way we live, think, act, eat, and handle stress. If you follow God's way, if you have the fruits of the Spirit, which are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, forgiveness, self-control, humility, faith, those sorts of things, that is what brings health to your body. Whereas the works of the flesh, which are anger and rage and envy and jealousies and all the stuff that's going on that we see in the streets today, that is what causes disease. I saw an alternative news guy talk about he hates so much the Illuminati that are doing this to us. And he's giving out some good information, but he's going to make himself sick because he's so angry.
I know who you're talking about.
You can't have that kind of anger, because when you have that kind of anger, whether you have stress from anger, lack of forgiveness, financial stress, domestic stress, job stress, the body recognizes it only as stress. And what happens is you then trigger your fight or flight reaction, which pours cortisol into your body. And cortisol is the same as cortisone. It suppresses your immune system so you cannot get well. So you are destroying yourself when you refuse to forgive. And you know, there's a whole group of people who say, never forget, never forget. And what they're doing is they're destroying their own immune systems by talking that way. We have to forgive our enemies. We have to love our enemies and do good to those who hate us. That doesn't mean we endorse what they're doing. But see, God is the Savior of all mankind. There is nobody beyond the reach of Jesus Christ. So we have to leave that to Him. Mm-hmm. Because if we hold on to anger or grudges, we destroy ourselves. So doctors, when all of this is going on and people are isolated and they're angry and they're frustrated, that's when you need to turn to the Lord and say, I'm going to give all of this to you because otherwise I'm going to destroy myself. So God says, no drugs. Now, if you're on high blood pressure medication or if you're on thyroid or something, you have to get off of it very gradually as you change the way you're living, eating, and handling stress. So I'm not saying to everybody, stop your medicine today. I'm not saying that. You have to get off of it gradually or otherwise you'll die possibly. But I'm saying that that is not the way God wants us to live our life. He has given us an immune system that will get us well and keep us well. As I said, I've been well for 27 years. I haven't been to a doctor in 27 years. I don't get the cold. I don't get the flu. I don't worry about COVID. I don't worry about any of these things. I mean, we've had SARS and we've had H1N1 and we have had the swine flu and all sorts of things that they pulled on us. About every 2 years, they've got a new one. Right. If your immune system is working well, you will not be sick. Mm-hmm. But if you succumb to what they're telling you, you may get yourself sick. Now, the interesting thing about hydroxychloroquine is in the media, you're seeing all these doctors say, well, you know, they say, take hydroxychloroquine, take small doses of it now to prevent COVID. And even Trump is saying that. Mm-hmm. But it's still a drug. You don't need a drug. What you need to do is get your immune system working well by changing the way you live, think, act, eat, and handle stress. Now, on the other side, they're saying, don't take hydroxychloroquine. So there's this big battle going on. I want to tell you about a big battle that went on in 1913. It's called the G. Edward Griffin, who is still alive and was a very big patriot, knew what was going on way back 50 years ago. But in 1913, there was a meeting at Jekyll Island where the big bankers, a couple names you might recognize are Paul Warburg and Nelson Aldrich. Now, one of the Rockefellers, who was a vice president, an appointed vice president years ago, was named Nelson Aldrich Rockefeller. So the Nelson Aldrich is the precursors of the Rockefellers because Nelson Rockefeller's mother's maiden name was Aldrich. So Nelson Aldrich was a big banker. Paul Warburg was a big banker. And I have the names of the other four that were there and had a meeting at Jekyll Island off the coast of the state of Georgia. This was before 1913. They decided they were going to take over the money supply of America and take over the money supply and start the Federal Reserve Bank. Now, our government, our Constitution says that the House of Representatives should be controlling the money supply, and the money supply should, when it's printed, it should be given to the banks with no interest. And when they passed the Federal Reserve Act, that meant that this private corporation of international bankers stole the money supply of America. And all the taxes you pay practically go to the pockets of the people who are on the board of directors of the Federal Reserve Bank. It doesn't go to run America. Well, the important thing to understand is when they had this meeting deciding how they were going to secretly take over the money supply of America, when they were interviewed in the papers, they had a person in the House of Representatives that they controlled that put the bill through to bring in the Federal Reserve Act. But all the bankers that were there that planned this came out against the bill. They came out against the bill because they knew that if people thought that the bankers, because the people then didn't trust these bankers, they had a lot more sense than a lot of people now. And they knew that if the people saw that the bankers were promoting this bill, they would vote against it. So they came out against the bill and the people passed it. So now they're telling you, don't use hydroxychloroquine. Oh, do use hydroxychloroquine. And oh, don't use it. People are so confused, but they're so used to taking drugs that even many of the doctors will come out against hydroxychloroquine and say, oh, well, then I better take it because I don't trust these people. So you see, there's actually, many people have heard of MK Ultra, which is a mind control programming. Well, there's another mind control program by the CIA. It's called Alice in Wonderland. And remember, even Fauci, and by the way, Dr. Fauci was around 30 years ago when I was in San Francisco at the height of the AIDS epidemic, because I operated on more AIDS patients than any surgeon in the country. And for that, I was on many national news shows and Oprah Winfrey, Larry King Live, and I was featured on 60 Minutes because I was exposing the government. Now, why was I featured on all of these mainstream programs? Not because at first I thought, oh, they really want to know, because I was quite naive about politics back then. But I found out later they didn't want to know. They wanted to shut me up, and they tried every way they could to destroy my credibility. That's why they had me on all these shows, but they didn't destroy my credibility. And so Dr. Fauci was around then. He was lying then. He's lying now. They're all liars at the CDC, at the NIH. I had personal experience with all of them. Now, Fauci at the beginning was saying, oh, wear a mask. Oh, no, you don't need to wear a mask. Oh, you do need to wear a mask. And then you hear back and forth, back and forth. That's called the Alice in Wonderland program, where they tell you one thing and then they tell you another thing. They're doing the same thing with hydroxychloroquine. And after a while, people become fatigued and they say, I don't know what to do. I'll just do whatever you tell me. And that's what they're doing. But hydroxychloroquine will give you all the same symptoms of COVID-19, so you'll look like you've got it. Then they'll be able to put you on a ventilator and blow out your lungs, and you die.
Yes, their cures or whatever they offer is bad. Both of those choices are bad. Vaccines, hydroxychloroquine. If people just understood that them as a group, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, it doesn't matter. They're against us as humanity. It's us against them, okay? So they don't give you any good advice. Both of the choices are very bad, but people, argue among themselves, and they are saying, like, I did 2 videos against hydroxychloroquine, and they were writing to me, some people, well, you must be then for the New World Order and Bill Gates. It's just like, oh, if you against Trump, you must be for Hillary.
No,
Yeah.
The thing is that the Democrats and Republicans are both owned by the cabal that runs the world. The cabal that runs the world is composed of the Illuminati Jews plus the high-level Gentile Freemasons who have sold out their kinfolk. This is a group that all worship Satan. They worship Satan. Now, you may think there's no Satan, there's no devil, that's just all hogwash. They believe there's a devil because they worship him.
Yes.
And when you don't learn, if you're a Freemason at the lower levels, you think this is maybe even a Christian organization. But you'll notice that you're not allowed to talk about Jesus, and they tell you it's only because they want to be inclusive and don't want to offend anybody else. But you can work yourself up to the 32nd degree, but you have to be asked to join the 33rd degree. And when you join are asked to join the 33rd degree, it's only then that you find out that you worship Satan. And I know that for sure because my grandfather was a 33rd degree Mason until he became a Christian, and he said, you cannot be a Mason and be a Christian. You will notice also, even in the lower degrees, when they take their initiations to the next level, when the Bible is opened, it is never open to the New Testament. It is never allowed to be open to the New Testament, only the Old Testament. And the oaths that they take are satanic. That if they divulge any information from inside the group, they will, be willing to have their intestines ripped out or their tongue ripped out or whatever. But you will also notice that they have in their initiation auditorium, they have a floor that is checkered black and white. And that's because they talk about Satan, who is the illumined one, is the good God because he says you can do whatever you want. But Adonai is the bad God because he has these rules, the 10 Commandments. So he's the bad God. Except Jesus Christ calls his 10 Commandments the law of liberty. And the reason it's the law of liberty, because if nobody lies, cheats, steals, or murders, then everybody's free. You don't have to worry about your children being sexually assaulted or kidnapped or sex trafficked. You don't have to worry about them going downtown on a public bus at the age of 8, which I did when I was 8 years old. Nobody got kidnapped. The bus driver didn't sexually assault you. He watched out for you. But Satan has taken over the world, and the reason Satan's taken over the world is because America and the world have left God. Nobody's studying their Bible. And a lot of people go to church. But nobody's really studying their Bible and learning about the Lord and seeking the Lord with all your heart. And by the way, that's the only chance you have of getting through what's coming. And here's the reason. If you are seeking the Lord with all your heart and studying his word diligently, then you are under the protection of Jesus Christ. That doesn't mean that nothing bad will happen to you, but it does mean that nothing bad will happen to you except what is allowed by Jesus Christ to get you to closer to him. And he promises to go through it with you. But if you are not seeking the Lord with all your heart and studying his word, then you are not under the protection of Jesus Christ, and you are under the total control of Satan, and he will be allowed to do anything he wants to you, all sorts of random violence. You are not subject to random violence when you are under the protection of Jesus Christ. You will only go through what he wants you to go through to get closer to him. So this is your only chance of really surviving what's going to happen. God promises if you are really trusting him that your bread and water will be sure when they have the famines. They're already gearing up for the famines.
Yes.
They are destroying the farms. They are destroying the food packing companies. They're closing them down. They're getting ready for the famines. That's one of the next things that's going to come. They will kill us. The Bible tells us they'll kill us with pandemics, fake or real. It says this all in Revelation. This is, in fact, I've been writing about this for 30 years because when I was speaking out with the AIDS epidemic, I was being given secretly some government documents through lower levels of the Illuminati. I'm talking about secretaries and low-level administrators who knew what the Illuminati were doing and did not agree with it, but didn't have a forum to speak out. And I was on many, many, many national television programs. Even Australian 60 Minutes came up to do a show on me. And I had a forum, and I was not afraid to speak out. And so they started sending me this information. And when I saw these documents, I thought, see, when I was a young child, I was from a family that studied Revelation, and I knew what Revelation said. So when I saw these documents, I thought, are we here? Is this the beginning of the end times? And I recognized that indeed we are. And I kept talking about how this was all going to close down and what they were going to do. And everybody thought I was a little nuts, but then it happened. And so if you know what Revelation says, you will know that they're going to kill us with famines, with pestilence, which is pandemics, with war, with the sword, which are the guillotines that they put in all the FEMA camps. And so they're ready to go. This is all ready to go. And as we have discussed before, the lockstep is just, they planned this years ago. But again, I had a friend who was able to get into the 1992, one or two, Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, where Maurice Strong, who was Undersecretary of the United Nations at that time, was in charge of the Earth Summit, where the Agenda 21 was all introduced, which was the agenda for the 21st century. And then subsequently, we've had Agenda 2030, which will take us to 2030. But interestingly enough, in 1994, when I had a copy of what this whole meeting was about, which was secretly taken with a lapel camera. And I was actually in my house at that time. I had my house on the market to sell. And because I was moving to another place because I had cancer, I didn't know why God wanted me to move to another house. But the house I was living in, people stopped in all the time and had no barriers to it. And I moved into a walled development where nobody could come to see me unless I knew they were coming. And that's where I guess God wanted me, where I went through the horrific times with my cancer when I almost died. But I had my house on the market for sale, and a couple came from Canada, and it was the Samuel Bellsberg, who were the business partners of Maurice Strong, who was Undersecretary General of the UN. And when they came into my house, I was actually making a copy of this video that I had gotten from my friend, which was not copyrighted. And he's standing there, he's saying, "Where did you get this? That's my ranch. That's my business partner." So here Bellsberg, who's part of the Illuminati, who's now dead, was actually in my house looking. He didn't buy my house. He had a lot more money than I did, but we lived on a special wall development that they wanted to get into. But the whole point is, these people are around. These people are all of one mind to destroy America, to destroy Christianity, to destroy Gentiles. I have a document that you probably have, which is from an intelligence agency associated with NASA, the Economic Forum, the UN, which says that by 2005, which is 4.5 years from now, the population of America will be 157 million people.
Is it Deagle.com?
Yes,
yes.
It's that Deagle document, right?
Right.
So plan to get rid of at least 2/3 of Americans within the next 4.5 years. And this is the beginning of it. So this, you have to realize that when you have all of this back and forth about hydroxychloroquine, that's exactly what they did with the masks, back and forth. Mm-hmm. Again, the MK Ultra type program. That's what they did with Jekyll Island when they wanted to get the Federal Reserve Act passed. They acted like they did not support that bill. Mm-hmm. And so if they get you to take hydroxychloroquine, then you will have all the symptoms of COVID.
Wow. Well, Dr. Day, people wrote me, who have autoimmune diseases, and they're saying to me, Yana, you're being too cruel. We are on this medicine for 20 years. We have no side effects. That's what saved my life. But I always say, well, is that a reason to give it to all population as a preventative for a little minuscule cold virus? I mean, are you kidding me now? So what is your opinion on, because they're saying, oh, this is a common drug. It's been used long time. It's safe. People are on it 20 years. So how would you answer?
There is no drug that is safe. There is no drug that is safe. Even many of the over-the-counter drugs that you can buy are not safe. They can give you, I won't mention the drugs, but one pain medicine that people take all the time over the counter can give you heart failure. And I've seen patients that have gotten it from just taking an over-the-counter drug. And so then they put you on another drug. These people, if they have an autoimmune disease, now doctors will tell you if you have an autoimmune disease that your immune system has become too strong and it's attacking you.
Right. That's I'm ex midwife, so I went through just this basic brainwashing of school. Of course, we both know that it's a Rockefeller and medicine, and they brainwash you. But so I wrote these people, you have overactive immune system. But then I got your letter, and you had totally different opinion on all of this. So that's news to me. Can you please explain that?
Yes. It's like saying, suppose that someone says to you, now don't get too healthy, because if you get too healthy, you'll be sick. Mm-hmm. Well, that makes no sense. If your immune system is working well, you will not be sick. You can't get an immune system that's working too well. It can't be overactive. What it is, it's an immune system that is compromised, and it's acting bizarrely because of the way you are living, thinking, acting, eating, and handling stress. Now, I realize nobody wants to take responsibility for their own disease. Nobody. Oh, it's the pollution in the air, and it's the stuff under my sink, the cleaning. No, it's not. I gave myself cancer. The first step that you have to take to get well is to take responsibility for your own disease. It didn't just happen. It didn't fall from the sky. It's not genetic. If cancer, and even all these other diseases, were genetic, if cancer were genetic, then our great-grandparents would have had to have as much cancer as we do to pass it down to us. But they didn't. In 1900, only 3% of Americans had cancer. Now over 50% have cancer. You destroy your immune system just the way I did, by the way you live, think, act, eat, and handle stress. Here's just a couple instances of what happens. Your body is 75% water. Your brain is 85% water. In fact, every thought that you think is transmitted on a waterway in your brain. You lose 10 glasses of water every day, even if you don't get out of bed. You lose it from breathing, because your breath is moist. It will fog up a mirror. You're breathing 24 hours a day. You lose it from perspiration, even when it's not hot. But when it is hot, by the way, yesterday it was 121 here. Wow. In the desert near Palm Springs. I think it's only 117 today, which is much cooler. But you lose water every day from perspiration, even when it's not hot. And every time you eat, you have to take water from your cells to put into your stomach to make digestive juices. If you eat meat, poultry, and fish, they have no water in them. They have no water, and they have no fiber. So you have to take even more water from your body if you're eating meat, poultry, and fish, because fruits, grains, and vegetables all have water in them, particularly vegetables and fruit, because you can make juice out of those. You can't make juice out of a steak except for the blood. Mm-hmm. By the way, the Bible says don't eat the blood and don't eat the fat. If you have meat that doesn't have blood or fat, it's shoe leather. Nobody wants to eat it like that. Okay, but that's what the Bible says. So you lose it when you have to take water from your cells to put it in your stomach for digestion 3 times a day, or how often you eat a day. And so you're losing 10 glasses of water every day just by living. And then most people drink coffee, and they drink caffeinated soda, caffeinated tea, alcohol. All of those things are diuretics, which mean they take more water out of your body than comes in with the drink. So everybody is walking around dehydrated. Dehydration is one of the major causes of all disease, including cancer. You have to replace those water losses. The body, again, is 75% water. It's not 75% Coke. It's not 75% Starbucks. It's 75% water. You have to drink water. Now, if you drink fresh homemade vegetable juice, not something from a bottle in the grocery store, because that all has to be heated and pasteurized, and it destroys all the enzymes. You will get some vitamins and minerals, but you won't get any enzymes. Enzymes are very anti-aging, and so you want to eat a lot of food raw and a lot of juice raw, and you have to drink your water. By the way, I'm 83 years old, yes. And the reason that I am as healthy as I am and I never get disease is because I eat, live, and think and act and handle stress the way the Lord wants rather than the way the doctors want. By the way, if you think about your doctor, how many human bodies has he or she created? None. How many human bodies has God created, including yours?
Right.
Billions.
Yes.
So who do you think knows more about getting you well? But then even Christians, what do? They trot off to the doctor instead of going directly to God and doing it his way. And they make the excuse, oh, well, God works through doctors. Then why does he call drug medication sorceries and witchcraft?
Well, Dr. Day, when you said about Alice in Wonderland operation, this is operation that's going on right now. And they use these doctors, they had them come in a white coats outside and give passionate talks about hydroxychloroquine. Right. So these people are totally bewitched, thinking that with this drug, hydroxychloroquine, you're doing the right patriotic thing and the right thing to fight the deep state, so it all became politicized and completely illogical that people would support, a drug. So, and when it's suggested to take it preventively to prevent a cold virus,
right,
instead of making your immune system stronger, when we know hydroxychloroquine is immunosuppressant, it completely unlearned. It's making sure hydroxychloroquine is teaching your immune system not to do phagocytosis. So it's basically against the, it kills your immune system, slowly but surely, depending on the dose. But anyway, what I wanted to say, you were telling me about germ theory. You wrote me a letter, and what I caught in it was about germ theory. Something that they teach us in school about germ theory, right? And you said it's all wrong.
The germ theory is wrong. Germs don't cause disease any more than flies cause garbage. Remember what I told you at the beginning?
Yes.
Flies don't cause garbage. Garbage attracts flies. Now they talk about ulcers and Helicobacter pylori causes the ulcer. No, it doesn't. They see it inside the ulcer and they say, oh, it must cause it because it's there. No, it's cleaning up the mess that you made by causing your own ulcer because you weren't eating, living, and handling stress properly. Again, the cure for an ulcer, a stomach ulcer, is water. It's just plain water, and here's why. And in fact, Dr. Batman-Gelage wrote a whole book about, he was an Iranian doctor in an Iranian prison, and he was said that, well, you're a doctor. He was imprisoned as a prisoner. You're a doctor. You're over these wards. He had no drugs or anything to give patients. So he used water, and he's the one that found out that water cures ulcers, because here's what causes an ulcer. You see, your body produces hydrochloric acid, and it helps break down certain kinds of food like celery and things like that have a lot of tough stuff in it. So you produce hydrochloric acid in your stomach, but the stomach lining, if the hydrochloric acid hits it, it will form an ulcer in it. So your body produces a very heavy layer of mucus to line the stomach. And when it does that, then the hydrochloric acid will not eat into the stomach lining. But if you don't drink enough water and you're doing all of these other things, stress also causes dehydration, by the way. And so then the the acid will not be have any protection, and the stomach lining will be eaten away by the acid. Then the Helicobacter pylori comes in to clean up the rotting tissue. So then they say, oh, well, let's get rid of the Helicobacter pylori. It's the ambulance attendant coming to get you after you've been hit by a car. And so then they want to kill the ambulance attendant. No, it's there to help you. Just like your good bacteria in your colon are a third of your entire immune system. So bacteria and viruses are not our enemy. They are not going way back 150 years ago. Pasteur, which is pasteurization of milk, Louis Pasteur said, the germ is everything and the milieu, the immune system, is nothing. In other words, if you get exposed to the germ, you're going to get it. Beauchamp, his opposition, another doctor, this was in France, he said, no, the immune system, the milieu is everything. The germ is nothing. But since Pasteur worked for the government, and since the germ theory is the basis of all drug medicine, right, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, he won out even though he was wrong. And so the way I reversed my cancer, see, if you have a sink that's pouring out water, you can stand by the sink with a mop and a bucket and keep mopping it up, or you can reach under and turn off the valve. Well, it's smarter to turn off the valve. But doctors always work at the wrong end of every disease. See, hydroxychloroquine just treats symptoms. It doesn't cure anything. It treats the symptoms. So what I did was I deprived the cancer of what it needed to grow by changing all the things about my life that was causing it. Doctors say, oh, you've got a tumor, let's cut out the tumor. Well, again, as I said, I didn't develop breast cancer because I had too many breasts. Cutting organs out is not the answer. They're always working at the wrong end. They're always working at the symptom end, which is what hydroxychloroquine does. And it causes the same symptoms, by the way, as the disease. So what you have to do is you have to get your immune system working properly. If it's working properly, God promises that you will not have disease. And people are always saying to me, well, I've got cancer. And I say, well, you've got to do it God's way. Well, I'm fine with God. If you're fine with God, well, then why do you have cancer? Because God says, if you're fine with him, you'll be living, eating, handling stress his way. So when you take a drug like hydroxychloroquine, you are not only harming your body and harming the wonderful immune system God gave you to get you well and keep you well, you are going directly against God's word, because he says that all drugs are sorceries and witchcraft.
So here we go. It's the matter of faith now. Are we believe in God and the way he made us, that we have natural defenses, or we believe the doctors that they brought out in white coats and Trump and politicians? But okay, one more, maybe last point we can discuss here. I have shown to our listeners lockstep document, and also, believe it or not, they had it in a movie. They had a movie series 10 years ago, where they actually talked about coronavirus. I mean, they played it all out. Everything we go through now was in that show, in movie show. And right. Coronavirus, masks, lockdowns, and guess what? Hydroxychloroquine. So I mean, it's like we are in a movie. Literally, they're playing out the script they pre-planned. So the particular document was saying that mass deaths were caused by hydroxychloroquine. That's in their documents 10 years ago. So I'm asking, if you know that we are in a script, what if they are putting something in a drug? That drug, by the way, is heavily financed by an organization called Black Rock Foundation, which is that's a Zionist Israeli company.
Right.
So I am worried that, how they have in a Talmud, they hate Gentiles and they want to cause us, according to their Zohar prophecies, a lot of tribulation. They want to basically kill us off, the Goyim.
Right.
Would
Go
you
ahead.
trust anything that they recommend? Because if you know Dr. Day, it was actually a doctor, it was a Jewish doctor who came out with that cure, and he combined hydroxychloroquine, certain antibiotic, I forgot the name now, and zinc. He threw zinc in it. So basically, he said that trio is a cure, and he belongs to the Chabad organization, which is like a head of a snake. So it's almost like, oh, we're doing tikkun olam, we're healing the world. They know, the Jews know, right? But the problem is, if you have told us, I have told them, because we studied Talmud for the purpose of knowing what's in it. They hate goyim.
Oh, the best of all the Gentiles should all be killed. That you can lie and steal from a Gentile, and you're. By the way, as you know, a Jewish doctor is not allowed to save the life of a Gentile unless the Gentiles are still so much in control that the Jewish doctor might get in trouble. Yes. However, Orthodox medicine has been taken over by the Jews. It has been taken over completely by the Jews. And I'm writing that in one of the chapters in the new book I'm writing. The new book I'm writing is called The Deliberate Destruction of America and the World, Who's Doing It and Why. And it should be out in 3 or 4 months. I'm almost done with it. And it will tell all of these things. And it will tell all of the things that they're doing to us now and why. The drug companies are all owned by Jews. The drug companies are all owned by Jews. By the way, Merck, the president of the vaccine division of Merck, is Julie Gerberding. Julie Gerberding was a colleague of mine at San Francisco General Hospital. She was an infectious disease doctor. And one time, one of the infectious disease people, not Julie, but Connie Woofsy, and she and I were friends. Connie and I were friends. We had our babies back to back in the same delivery room. And so one day I was talking to her in the hallway, about AIDS, and she said, our chairman says we can't talk to you. And I said, why? She said, no, nobody in the department is allowed to talk to you. And I said, why? And she said, because you tell the public the truth.
Wow.
You tell the public the truth. So nobody in the whole Department of Internal Medicine and all their subdivisions was allowed to talk to me.
Wow.
Okay, this is how bad it is. So Julie Gerberding, who lied to the press over and over again, she and I were on programs together. She lied, and I would say to her, because I was quite naive politically at that time, 30 years ago, and I would say to her after the program, why did you do that? And she would give me some mumbo jumbo about how we had to worry about other things other than the truth. And so she was richly rewarded for her lies. She became the first woman head of the Centers for Disease Control, which is nothing but a vaccine promoting organization. And then now she is president of the vaccine division of Merck. She just sold some of her stock for $5.3 million or something like that. So these people are all in it together. The drug companies are all owned by the people who want us dead.
Yes. Yes.
So when you're taking drugs, you are not only going against God. See, the mark of the beast is not a barcode. It is not even the tattoo that the vaccine may leave on you, but don't get it. I'm not going to get it. And it is not a chip. It is what is in your heart. It says it's the number not of a man, it's the number of, the word is anthropos, number of humanity. Anthropology is the study of humanity. It's the number of humanity. It's the number of believing in man and not God. So that's what the mark of the beast is. When you go to the doctor, you believe in man, because God says, I have the way to heal you. And you'll notice, get this, you'll notice that doctors are getting COVID, aren't they? Doctors are getting COVID.
Well, they say they are, yeah.
They need to know how to prevent or reverse their own disease. I've had all sorts of friends who've died of cancer, doctor friends who've died of cancer, because they don't know how to prevent or reverse the disease. If they don't know how to prevent or reverse their own disease, how do you think they can do it in you?
Yes, you know that they're putting the COVID diagnosis on everything now.
Oh, yeah.
So
You get
how
run
can you
by
even trust that COVID is for real? I mean, we have a beautiful hot summer. I think, Dr. Day, that if it was not that they are ready and they brought this corona, which is keter, which is crown in a Kabbalah tree, I think that's their code name for starting to wrap up all of this that they have planned. Because
Well, you know what the crown comes from? You know why they pick corona? Because there are lots of cold viruses.
right.
The British royal family is not the crown. The Crown Corporation is the Rothschilds in the city of London. So that's the crown. And when the queen comes there, she bows to them. So that she bows to the Rothschilds. So the Rothschilds are the crown, not the British royal family. So they picked the crown virus, the coronavirus.
Ah, well, isn't it interesting that in the Kabbalah tree of their mysticism, the top is keter, you know, which is crown. So they're starting this whole operation from top, crown, corona. That's what put it in motion.
Right.
And they picked like you afraid to sneeze or cough when you're outside because people look at you like, everybody sneezes. Everybody coughs sometimes. So they pick those, very common little things people do to clean their body, right? That's a natural body reaction. It's you cleaning off the mucus or whatever. But they basically used this basic cold virus.
Well, that's because they can bring it back again and again and again because nobody has absolute immunity to the cold. And so they bring it back again and again and again. So if they had something more destructive, they couldn't keep doing it over and over again.
Yeah, so they can keep doing perpetual vaccination, totally destroy humanity with it. So it is just insane. Well, Dr. Day, thank you. I mean, I really wanted your opinion as a medical doctor on this hydroxychloroquine because I'm getting all kinds of reactions from my strong stand against it. I'm against the vaccine, I'm against hydroxychloroquine, and I don't trust them. I don't trust any of their solutions. I really believe we all, like you say, need to look into Word of God for all the solutions, not to the man. Thank you. Do you have anything else to add? And I want to say again that your website is drday.com and goodnewsaboutgod.com. I do go on to Dr. Day's site, and she also posts a lot of news articles there. I saw that you post a lot of news stuff.
Right. On goodnewsaboutgod.com, I have new articles that are written by other people that I post, and I have updates that I write on that same site. But the thing is, if somebody comes to you and says, if you're against hydroxychloroquine or if you're for it, you're this or that, tell them to just get on their computer and go on the website and go on the internet and look up the side effects to hydroxychloroquine. It's right there. Just look at it and tell them, do you want your spouse, somebody you love, your mother, your father, your children taking this drug that causes far worse symptoms than COVID ever caused?
Yeah, and Dr. Day, look at all of their solutions so far, or everything they're doing to us is immunosuppressive. Aren't masks immunosuppressive? Isn't social distancing immunosuppressive? I mean, we are social creatures. So when you start isolating, especially children, you start isolating them. Okay, you suppress their immune system.
The other thing that masking, we need to know about this. Whenever they do initiations into secret satanic societies, they always start with masking them. So this is the beginning of the initiation of the population of the world into a satanic society.
Yes. So Dr. Day, I want to ask you, I mean, this is, you can answer or not. I mean, I am not wearing masks and I am actually avoiding going to a store because of it. But if I have to go and they force me, like I need to get something. So, I actually got away twice now. I went to Publix and nobody noticed. And I was walking like the only person. Everybody looked at me weird, but they didn't have enough bravery to say anything. the local people here, they know me, right? They know me in a store because they know me from going there for all these years I live here. So they just didn't say anything. So I kind of escaped. And then yesterday in Walmart, they didn't say anything. But when I go to Costco, they just won't let me go, so I couldn't get my eyeglasses. I had to get my eyeglasses, so I had to wear a mask. So how do you deal with this personally? Because I don't want to be masked. I want to reject this, but when you see all of these Americans and neighbors and everybody's accepting it, Dr. Day, nobody's doing anything about it.
Well, first of all, we're not going to take America back. The Revelation tells us that this is the beginning of the end. You're not going to take America back. But secondly, I'm not going to take my stand on the mask. First of all, you have to realize I'm a surgeon. I wear a mask sometimes for 17 hours straight when I was operating to protect the patient from the surgeon. That's what a mask is for, to protect a patient's open wound that's only 18 inches away, not to protect two well people from each other 6 feet away.
Yeah.
I don't take my stand at the mask. I'm taking my stand at the vaccination.
Okay.
I'm willing to go to a FEMA camp, to death, to whatever, not to take the vaccination, because God says drugs are sorceries and witchcraft, and I don't want them injecting that stuff into my body. So that's where I'm taking my stand. I sometimes wear a sign on my mask that says, I'm a surgeon, coronavirus causes nothing more than the common cold, or some other thing on my mask. So I make a statement as I do it. But I buy almost everything online. I'm so busy, and so I go to the grocery store occasionally, and so I'm not making my stand on wearing a mask. I'm making my stand on the vaccination.
Yeah, and I am doing the same thing as far as when I do have to. I'm trying not to, because I'm just so angry over this that they force us do that. But when I do have a mask, I do have a statement on it. And I don't have a nice day. I'll usually say Corona hoax, or something like that. I have it on, or I am forced to wear this. That's the way I am forced to wear this. So they know it's not my willing heart to do that. Right. But anyway, so Dr. Day, again, drday.com, goodnewsaboutgod.com. And I want to thank you so much for coming on again.